Hey Authority Hackers, welcome to this week's podcast episode. In this episode, Mark and I are buying a website and we're making the plan to fix it in the next 90 days and make it grow. Well, we're not really buying a website, but we are pretending we're buying a website on Flippa, picking the exact URL and showing you how we would turn it around, make it better, make it more money, and possibly flip it after that, or maybe keep it and make it bigger. When we polled you, you guys told us you really like these kind of practical episodes, so we're trying different formats here. Let us know if you like that kind of format in the comments and give us a thumb up if you like it. But I'm not gonna tease you more, let's get started with the episode. Hey everyone, welcome to the Authority Hacker podcast. As you can see, I don't have the usual background behind me. I'm actually traveling to Portugal for 4 months because I couldn't handle another winter in Eastern Europe, to be honest. So that's going to be my background for a little bit, but that's not the point of this podcast. In today's episode, we're going to be essentially playing a little game with Mark where we would virtually be buying a website on Flippa and how we would try to turn it around / make it gain value for maybe another flip in just 90 days. And so we have picked a website and we're going to do the full case study with you, explain to you what we would do, which tool we would use, etc. And I think these kind of episodes are really interesting because they allow us to really dive into practical details of building, running websites, making them better, etc., which tend to be the kind of episodes where people get the most value. So that's why we went for that. Let us know in the comments, actually, if you enjoy that format. We might do it again if it works out. If it doesn't work out, we'll do something else. But anyway, Mark, how's it going?
It's going good, thank you. In cold Scotland here, we just got our first sort of like ice on the car window in the morning. So I'm not jealous at all of your mild Portuguese weather.
It's 21 degrees now here. Yeah, it's not bad.
It's like summer here, and it's 21 degrees.
Yeah, no, it's pretty good. It's a bit cold at night, but otherwise, I quite enjoy it. Let's see how it goes. It's obviously doing work, doing what we do now with the video setup, etc., solving with that, etc. It's been a bit of work to even set up this basic version of what we have now because I'm shooting still videos for H Pro, etc. right now. The AutoSite system as well. But it's pretty fun. So I'm here for 4 months actually, so we'll see how it goes. But anyway, that nobody cares about my life. So let's talk about the stuff people care about, which is the case study site with potentially buy. So the way we found this site actually is we went on Flippa and we look for sites that sold already, because the problem with sites that are for sale, especially with an auction system, is you can't really tell what value the market attributes to them. So it's better to look at stuff that was recently sold. So it's more realistic as to what we would pay for what, etc. And we actually gave ourselves some constraints. So first of all, 90 days. So we have 90 days to essentially quote unquote turn the site around, but just make it better in general, try to make more money with it, have a growth plan basically, etc. And we gave ourselves a constraint in budget, which is pretty large, to be honest. Looking back now, we put $50,000 in budget, $50,000, but we already buy.
That includes buying the site.
Oh, though. Yeah, that includes buying the site. Yeah, so it's we start with the site that already makes some money, etc. Something that's quite realistic for a lot of people who are looking to get started with this. With a decent budget, but not an incredible budget as well. It's not we're not talking millions, etc. Lots of sites sell for a lot more money than that. So the site we actually picked is outdoorgearshub.com. So it's a bicycle site that sold on Flippa 54 days ago for $22,100. So it's not a big sell price. And what I liked about this is we didn't just throw a lot of money at the website. We actually have some money left to do some stuff with it, which allows us to not do everything. You can buy sites and turn them around, but obviously you usually need more time because you'll need to essentially spend your time to fix that stuff. Do you want to go through the stats of the site?
Yeah, so it's a 1-year-old site, give or take, and it's around DR32. So it's out of that initial early stage site, and I feel like with a DR30 plus site, you can kind of work with it and see fast results with something like that.
Yeah, you skip the first year of no results, no nothing, because you're in a sandbox basically.
Exactly, and on Flippa, one of the good things is sites actually share their revenue and traffic over the last 12 months as well. So you can see that the first 6 or 7 months of the site, it didn't really get much traffic, but then it sort of slowly started to take off a bit, and at the time it sold, it was getting around 15,000 page views per month. We've got to remember as well that cycling, I imagine, is somewhat seasonal. More people obviously want to be outdoors and do that in the summer. So it did have a peak in August of almost 21K, and it was down to 15, 16K in September. And I would expect if no work's done on the site to continue down. Maybe Christmas, Black Friday might.
I was gonna say it spikes at this period, then it just goes back down to oblivion until March or something.
Yeah, but the winter is likely going to be a quiet period for the site, which is fine because that's the time when we're going to be quote unquote working on the site in this imaginary example here. So in terms of revenue though, the site was making so last month it made $1,200 and in August it made almost $1,600. July was $1,500. So it's like, low 4-figure range at the moment, which again gives us something to work with. It's a little bit of money coming in. We can reinvest all of that money in the growth of the site, in addition to anything else we brought to the table as well. So and we were sort of discussing this before the show. At a valuation which is sold for of 22K, and the revenue for the last 3 months being sort of around about 15K. That works out at about a 14 to 15x multiple if you take the last 3 months, which is this new kind of baseline of a multiple.
And 22x
really
for
good.
6 months, yeah. So it's like, it's really good for the market.
Which is really, really, really good. Yeah, especially considering those months are summer months and are likely to be kind of higher revenue overall. So I think this is a fantastic purchase, whoever acquired this.
Yeah, that's why I liked it, because of the value you get for it. It's like you're out of the sandbox, you get some, and the content is decent, the links are decent. It's nothing like earth-shattering, but like everything's decent. Even the tech setup is decent, right? It's built on GeneratePress. They use like a lot of the stuff that we use. It looks a lot like someone who followed our training, to be honest. But like I like it because for me, it's like I get the base. I get to get results really quickly when I put new content, when I do all of that. And I don't need to change a lot of stuff, because usually when you buy sites, you kind of like throw half of it away because you don't like it, you don't like the tech, you don't like the theme, you don't like some of the content, etc. And here there was not a lot to throw away for really good value. And so like I felt like, yeah, go ahead.
Which means that rather than spending 90 days changing out the tech and moving everything off whatever platform, we can actually just work on the SEO.
And make more money, like focus on like, let's just make more money. And that's why it's like, usually I'm the guy that's like, well, it's so much cheaper to build than to buy. In his case, I actually like, I'd be happy to put my money down for this site, provided I have the time to actually work on it. Right now, we're quite busy with a lot of stuff, but if I had the time to work on a project like that, like, yeah, I think it's good value. I would put my money down and I would buy it at this price. And I think I could turn around a decent profit working on this site, actually. Not a lot is wrong. So yeah, it's like, I've done like, obviously I didn't do like the full like due diligence, etc. But I've looked at the links. Is there a lot of shit links, etc.? The links are pretty relevant. They tend to be on like sites that are not extremely high DR. Like the average would be like a DR 40 site, but it's quite related to like outdoors and cycling, etc. Like the relevance of the links is decent. The content is decent too. So for example, I was looking at the review they have for helmets, and they have like graphs that shows you like the different layers inside the helmet to protect your head in the buying guide, and like lots of like little things like that. That was like, yeah, that's decent content. It's like if I was looking to buy a helmet, I would find value in this. It's not perfect, but it's honestly pretty good, and I think it's a really, really good base to start from at this price. So let's go through the pros and cons of this site. I mean, first of all, yeah, the price was good for what you get. The tech stack, I liked it a lot. I think the key use GeneratePress is very simple, but the content's formatted decently. The button colors are a little bit all over the place, for example, in the CTAs, things like that. But like overall, it's not difficult to fix that. Or
easily fixable, those things, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And what I like is I have, on my 50K budget, I have $28,000 left to add content, build links, etc. So I don't have to do everything myself, even though the budget is like, it's a good budget, but it's not an insane budget for like acquiring a website and growing it, etc. Like it's fair. The cons is it's a seasonal niche. So it's like, if you're getting hit by an update, in April, and then you're just down for 6 months and you go back up, like your year is over. And so that is a bit of a problem given the volatility of rankings in Google these days. You're playing a little bit of a roulette game on your earnings for that year. So it's like, yeah, that can happen. You need to really nail that these few months of the year, because they're going to be 80% of your money basically. The second one is it's a competitive niche. Bikes is not the easiest niche. There's easier stuff, but it's fair. Like, given the fact that you start at DR 30 plus, like, it doesn't take a lot of work to get to like 40, 50, and then I think you can get some traffic. I found DR 50 sites in that niche that get like 400k traffic. We'll talk about that a little bit later. But that shows you that you're not too far in terms of authority from being able to compete, but you probably need to still like step that gap between like these sites and your level of authority, and there's about a 15 to 20 points of DR to catch up. Obviously DR is not perfect to calculate that, but it's an easy way to just discuss about this.
One other negative or con I would add just around the niche of bikes is they're quite bulky, expensive products. And so if you want to do product in hand type reviews with the bikes themselves, that can be challenging in terms of it can be quite expensive. You need a lot of space to store them. Getting them shipped is expensive. Like all the logistics of that can be a little bit difficult, but there are other ways to go with it, with like accessories and info content and stuff as well, which we'll talk about as well. But that's just something that's a potential negative as well.
Another issue with that is that because a bike is an expensive purchase, Amazon is less interesting, because people usually probably will have a longer window than 24 hours to make a buying decision. And quite often people will use your links, eventually buy the bike, but they might have lost your cookie by the time they buy, on top of stock issues. So we've been in niches like that where, these are like big items with lots and lots of references for the sizes. So like, a given bike will have like 4 or 5 different sizes. And so it's a lot of inventory for bike shops. And even for stores like Amazon, quite often they are not going to have some sizes available in different markets, in different areas, etc. And overall, like, quite often you send affiliate clicks that will not result in a sale, not only because people take longer to buy, but also because the stock is not going to be here. And it's quite a bit of a battle for stocks. I mean, we've been in other sports markets like that, where the equipment was like, actually, we said we were in golf. Like we had a podcast about this. So I'm not gonna hide it. We're in golf, and it was the same problem for golf clubs. Quite often, especially if people were not buying the golf clubs of that year, the stocks were rare, and very, very often you'd get out of stock issues on Amazon. So that is
one other thing to consider. There is some bikes, are, especially if you get into electric bikes, are many thousands of dollars, and people aren't always ready to spend that amount of money on something online. So quite often what they'll do is they'll research it online, and then they'll go into the store and try it on and buy it. Sometimes they will try it on in the store and then come back and buy it online. But with that kind of delay and those issues there, it can present issues for cookie tracking, especially if you're on Amazon. What is it, like 24-hour cookie? If they don't buy there and then most likely you're not going to get commission for that sale. So yeah, there's some issues there.
Yeah, and finally, another issue, if you're using Amazon, which the site is using, is actually some of the top pages may be against the terms of service. So like some of the top pages are like, best road bikes or dirt bike under $500, for example. And, actually, according to Amazon's terms of service, you're not really allowed to make claims on prices because they can vary so much. And like, what if that is actually a $510 bike now and you claim it was $500? The thing is, like, it's against terms of service, but I've never seen anyone get banned on Amazon for that. So it's kind of like a gray area. I personally, if I was on this podcast and someone wasn't going to call me out on this, I would probably not care that much because I've never seen people have problems with that. But it's something to be mindful about. And then if you're getting like audited by Amazon, stuff like that, which does happen, that's something to take into consideration, basically. So that's pretty much the limitations for that site. So there's pros, there's cons, but still for that price, it's pretty good. And I think it's a good buy. Whoever bought it did a good deal. Unfortunately, since they bought it, they literally published no content or didn't do much at all, actually, from what I've checked. So it's not really, maybe they can take that plan and apply it after that. The thing with that site, in terms of the vision, like, where do we want to go, basically? What do we want to do with that site? Let's say we purchased it, we got it for $22,100. What's the plan? Well, go ahead. You want to say
So,
something?
I mean, I think at the moment it's positioned very much as an affiliate site, right?
Yeah.
It's reviewing bikes, bike helmets, bike accessories, all these kinds of things. Your typical Amazon affiliate review site that most people listening to this podcast know and love. I think in terms of growing the revenue, there's a lot of opportunity here with ads. Maybe not right this second when we start, but certainly in the short to medium term, it's something we can look to add once we reach a certain amount of traffic. So we can certainly turn on that different channel monetization with ads, and we can also grow our affiliate revenue quite significantly, I think, as the site grows in authority, as we create better content, we rank better, and just do kind of what the site is supposed to do there in general. I think there's a lot of opportunity as well to branch into things like electric bikes. I know it's covered a little bit on the site, but
It is actually. Electric tricycles is one of their top pages.
which makes sense, right? You'd imagine that's like a lower competition keyword. There are dedicated electric bike sites that just focus on electric bikes, have very high authority, and so competing on those is going to be hard. But I think it's something we could potentially get to in the sort of medium term.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is, like, the first challenge is to get good ad networks. Basically, for me, good ad networks is like Mediavine, AdStrive. Like, I think these are the two golden standards. A lot of people use Ezoic. Ezoic can make good money, but it conflicts with our tech setup and it tends to be annoying. And just in general, just like getting ads on like low traffic sites doesn't make that much money. So given the fact that we are working with that budget, we've already spent a sizable amount of money. Like, we're not at like a few $100 that we would make from ads at this point. So I'd rather just like work my way to these premium ad networks, Mediavine or Ezoic. So, Mediavine or AdStrive. And so if you want the traffic thresholds for that, if you want to get on Mediavine, it's 50,000 visits. Right now, it was 16,000 visits, I think, at the time of purchase. And if you want to get the site on AdStrive for your first site, it's 100,000 visits. But if you already have sites on there, we do have sites on AdStrive, then it's only 30,000. So it's like basically for us, if we purchased it, we need to hit 30,000 to get it on the premium ad network. If you are not on any premium ad network already, then you'd need to hit 50,000 to get on Mediavine, which honestly is, I would say, equivalent to AdStrive, depending on people. Some people make more money with one, more money with the other, but they're in the same league, basically. So for me, that would be kind of like, the interest of doing that as well is that we'd get to create lots of informational content that increases our topic authority. So like we'd be becoming like more of a bike site, not just a bike review site. And we'd be able to use that informational content to build links. So like we can do skyscraper stuff, we can do outreach, etc. And we can start closing that gap. I was talking about these sites that are in the DR50 range, something like that get lots of traffic. We can start closing that gap with these sites slowly so that we can start playing in their league. And then it opens up more keyword opportunities on the affiliate range. So actually, in that case, I like the idea of like pushing info content because it kind of like kills 3 birds in one stone. That's a lot of birds. And so I think that's what I would push for first. So that would be our day one. Basically, the way we did this is like we have first project we do that. Actually, we didn't talk about another thing before we jump into that. I think I forgot. When we get the site, we talked about the inventory issues, and like we checked the site before we bought, like just now, and then there's lots of out of stock products. There's lots of expired products on Amazon, etc. So I guess the first thing to do is actually fix all of that and change the product recommendation so that earnings can go
day
back
one.
up. Yeah. So like that's kind of like the only task I would do on day one. I would not change the design. I would not change the tech. I would not change anything. I'd just make sure when you go on an article, you can buy the product that is recommended. That's it. And for that, we can either use, apparently Amazon for some accounts is actually making like recommendations of like out of stock products. So you don't need to buy another tool. And the other one, what is it, Mark?
It's AMZ Watcher. It's a SaaS tool that allows you to scan your site and monitor it for broken Amazon links, non-affiliate Amazon links, and out of stock products. And it'll set up alerts to let you know when something goes out of stock. There's also a free Chrome plugin called Keepa, which is useful, maybe not at this stage, but as you're writing the content and looking through the products on Amazon, it can give you like a price history, and if there's no price history data, then that's going to indicate that it's out of stock. So it's essentially, if you see that a product's been out of stock a lot as you're writing the article, then you maybe don't want to include that product in your roundup review or your review at all.
Yeah. So like, yeah, day one, fix that. And that's the only thing I would do. Like, it's really like, I mean, it's probably going to take a couple of days. It's not just a one-day thing if you fix several pages, but the site is not that big as well. So fix that, get your revenue as high as possible while you work on the rest. And after that, first project is like, okay, let's expand info content. Let's tie it to some skyscraper campaigns. And let's grow. Let's use the existing domain authority to answer very basic questions. So the way you tend to find these kind of like easy keywords is you'll type keywords related to your niche. So like bike, bicycle, tricycle, like road safety as well. Like, think about like all the topics that you could be talking about and check the questions report in Ahrefs. That's what I use. Or use a tool like lowfruit.io, for example, that allows you to find a bunch of these like really easy keywords with traffic. Get these written. I guess you need a writer here, but that's where we start using our budget that's left over because you need some volume, right? It's like, it's not going to be like 5 articles we're done. You need like, I don't know, 50 to 100 articles maybe to like
at least. But what we're really trying to do is not just write those articles and then forget it. It's build a continuous flow of articles coming in. So, if you don't have the budget, you could obviously do it yourself. But if you want to hire writers, then there's two kind of approaches that could work here. At ProBlogger, so we've talked about this quite a lot on the podcast, but they have a jobs board, ProBlogger.com/jobs, about $150 for a job ad, and you'll probably get 150 applicants for a role like this on a cycling site, I would think. Now, the main thing you want to do here is screen applicants so that they are for people who have cycling experience. You don't want just a general SEO writer who can research cycling and write. You want someone who has a bike, cycles a lot, knows the ins and outs, and can really help you deliver great content. So if you're not finding those people in ProBlogger, another approach you can actually take as well is to just reach out to other freelance writers who have written on other sites, preferably big sites that have done well and their content is ranking. So really just look through the SERPs at people who are writing the types of articles that you have planned out or that you want to create. And then see if they'd like to write for you as well. Just outreach to them and kind of make them an offer. You're probably going to have to pay a little bit more than average if you do that. So you probably pick up a writer in ProBlogger for 6 cents a word. I'd say that's probably about the average for a cycling writer like this. But if you're reaching out to people, you might have to kind of up that a little bit to 8 or 10 cents in order to get them to come work for you, kind of thing, if they've already got other clients. So that would be, I would take probably both of those two approaches at the same time just to get it going as fast as possible. And then I'd speak to them, have a little call, and then get them to do a test article. And the ones that I like, I'd hire and start working with them on content.
Yeah, and you just, as you said, it's kind of like the pipeline. You just want to keep it going. Definitely start with topics that are, about the topics that are already treated on the site, so that you can have the internal links, and then you can have this topical relevancy. So, for example, this site talks about tricycles because these are easy keywords, like these electric tricycles, etc. I'd start there actually to look for, and then helmets as well. Like, questions like, can you reuse a helmet after you had a crash? How to take care of your helmet? How to adjust it properly so it's safer? Like these kind of questions would be like what I would go for. And yeah, I would just keep this flowing, basically, like simple and easy with good internal links. And my goal is to increase my traffic to 30 or 50K, basically. So that's step one. Let's build that process. I give ourselves a month to do that, to find the writer, do the test article, do the planning, do all of that. So I think a month is fair to do that, actually. I'd use Surfer SEO, by the way, to optimize this. Like this kind of content, like it's very SEO driven. I'd definitely use Surfer. So that's first one. Then the second one
would you go back and optimize the existing content that's on there in that time?
Depends how it's performing. Like, if it's already ranking well, maybe not. But like if it's not ranking too well, I mean, it depends. Like for that phase, not so much, because that phase is really just about info content, and it's honestly like I can probably count on two hands how many info pages there is on this site. So it's not a lot.
Yeah.
So like the thing is like, teaching your writers to re-optimize content is like a whole different beast than writing new articles. And so you'd have to ask the question, like, is it even worth the time, or should we just leave what's here and just expand? Because we need, like, as I said, 100 articles or something. Like, eventually that the percentage of existing info content here is going to be very small out of the total pool of info content. So it's like, do I even bother with that? If I just have 90 days, maybe not actually, even though, ideally you'd want to do that and that'd be better, etc. I think eventually it's such a small percentage of existing content. It's not worth the hassle. I'd rather jump on the next project that I think is going to bring more value than that. And then we can look at this after the 90 days if we're still working on the site, basically. Because the next project is, we need some links. And it's like, as I said, the site has good links, but it lacks of like high authority links. Like, you'd be hard pressed to find anything above DR50. There's one I found the one DR70 site that links to them, and then everything else is in the DR40 range. So I think it's missing, a handful of high authority links to hopefully do a lot better. And so like the plan is like, okay, how do we get these high authority links that together with that big batch of info content is going to lift us up, not only for being able to be on ad networks, but also lift up our roundup reviews and put us in a position to be more competitive on the affiliate side in the next phase, basically.
Yeah, and there's a few different approaches that we take. If we spend most of the second month doing link building or focusing on link building, getting the processes going, which would continue to run, indefinitely beyond that. So with the idea of getting these sort of like higher authority links, higher DR links, there's three general approaches we would take. The first being Haro. Now, I don't think Haro is a make or break for this. There's only 5, maybe 10 relevant opportunities per month related to cycling. But it's an easy win. We should be in the mix for that. So I would, it only takes like an hour or so to get this process going, but like sign up for it, get it going, make a process where you're checking it at the right times and looking for cycling related or bicycle related questions. And there have been a few on there recently about, the environmental impacts of biking, or even just like product questions like what is the best electric bike, and choosing helmets, safety, those kinds of things. And so I think if we didn't know the answers ourselves, like certainly our writers or our team on hand would be able to help us, and we'd be able to get maybe 1 or 2 links a month through Haro, but it's free and it's an ongoing thing. So I think I would certainly start there. But very quickly afterwards, I would also start doing some outreach-based link building. So there's I would break this down into 2 approaches. So first would be to build a list of 50 or 100 ideal sites that you want to link from. These would be all of the best sites in the cycling industry, in the bicycle industry, and anything related. Some would be competitors, some would be slightly different. But I would make that kind of top 50 or top 100 list either through, you pick a lot of these sites up through doing keyword research. You can look in competing domains and Ahrefs, just in the SERPs, like who's ranking for popular cycling terms, and kind of learn about all the sites there. You can Google best cycling blogs and find them there, or even just look on Reddit and see what sites people are recommending for resources. And I'd start building that list. Now, the challenge with getting links from them is that you're currently low DR and probably don't have much of a reputation in the industry. So is anyone really going to take note of you? If you want to do like a link exchange, it's probably not going to be in their favor. So they're probably not going to give you the time of day. So there are 2 ways you could overcome that. First is you could aim to become a regular contributor on a higher authority site. So you basically would take a writing job, writing an article a week or 2 articles a month or something on another high authority site. And you could either do it for free in exchange for, being able to post your post links and stuff on there. Or you could actually just, deliver awesome content and almost like take a job there and get paid for it and do it that way. But the idea is like you kind of want to find a site which you can establish a level of trust with and you can post on, and then you could link to one of these top 100 sites in your list and they would link to your site. So it's kind of like a bit of a 3-way link exchange with a twist. Another way, maybe more simpler, is you could just find paid sites, so sites you can pay for guest posts, pay for links on, and then you can offer a link from one of those sites to one of the sites on your list if they link to your site. So another way to do the three-way link exchange. And then another sort of variation of this is to just look for straight up authority sites. And these are maybe going to be less relevant to cycling, but maybe more, fitness or outdoors or yeah. And there's loads of these kind of sites out there, and you can bridge that gap between a fitness site and a cycling site. It's much healthier for you. How much calories do you burn a week by cycling to work instead of driving, and all these kind of things. So there's a lot of actually very relevant bridging topics you can do there. I would be looking for sites DR sort of 50 to 70 range. And most likely you're going to find quite a few paid options in there, which, it's fine if you want to go down that route. I think you could benefit, as long as you vet the sites correctly, you could benefit from a few of those links in the short term, at least. And for each of the sites that you find, which are, let me say that again. And the types of sites you're kind of looking for, or the way to find sites rather, is to look for people in your industry who have been doing active guest posting. So you can search for like cycling guest post by in inverted commas or words to that effect. So you can find other cycling sites who've been doing guest posting. Once you find that, you can go in one of two ways. You can mine that the backlinks of the cycling site that's doing the active guest posting for other sites to build your prospect list with. Or once you find each site that's taken a guest post, is you can look at the outbound links that site has, and then you find all the other people who are doing active guest posting, and then you can mine those for backlink opportunities for prospects as well. And you can go like that basically forever. You'll almost never run out of prospects that way. Now, this will yield a lot of sites who are doing paid guest posts, and there'll be a lot of guest post farms and stuff in there. So it's really important that you vet them properly according to your quality standards. But I think in these early days, there'll be a lot of low-hanging fruit, and I would say that our quality threshold can be a little bit lower. That's not to say we're taking pure spam sites, but it's okay to get a few, borderline ones in there to get it going. Worst case, they get discounted in now or in the future, but I think a few of them will actually help move the needle. And we want to be moving long term towards more sort of like sustainable link building, by like building linkable assets and higher authority PR type link building. We're not getting into that in the first 90 days. However, I will say I would also in these 90 days aim to build one good linkable asset. So there's a site called Bike Radar that has this really interesting article on the environmental impact of cycling. But it's not just a simple, how much CO2 do you save versus driving your car? They actually looked into, how much does it actually cost? How much CO2 does producing the bike cost? How much does shipping the bike to you cost? How much extra calories do you need to eat in order to
how much extra carbon do you reject when you breathe with the bike,
Well, yeah, exactly. So they just had a more interesting twist on it, and they got quite a lot of good links from that. I'm not sure if they did them active outreach or it was just a passive thing or a bit of both, but having that really strong linkable asset, something like that statistics-based page, would also help you when you're doing outreach to some of these higher authority sites as well. You can, for example, find everyone that has outdated stats, and you can say, hey, you mentioned this number, but it's actually old. Here's an updated number.
It's also not visualized on that page actually that you showed me. Like there's no visualization of that, which I think is missing. I think people would love to share that on social, like some mini infographic or whatever. Like I think that would be better. So there's opportunities.
There are one or two, but they certainly do a better job of that. But I think having that in the early days of a site like this, having that one strong linkable asset just gives you that opportunity to outreach to all these higher authority sites and get better links legitimately. Because right now, why would a DR80 cycling site link to this site? There's nothing on there that would justify that. And for in terms of tech for that, I'd keep it simple. Would have a G Suite account or a Google Workspace, as they call it now, account for the site. I would use Hunter to find. I would use Ahrefs to do the prospecting, Hunter to find emails. Although for a lot of this, you would possibly be doing like manual searches and make sure you're contacting the right person as well. So you could. I mean, Hunter allows you. I think it's 25 free emails searches per month. So you might be able to get away with that depending on volume if you're going super snipery. And then I would use the free Hunter outreach tool, which is built into it, which is amazing.
And the thing as well is like, it's important to note that it was good that we have budget left, because then you can count the cost of Ahrefs, for example, or the cost of tools like that. And it's realistic within your budget. It's not like, it's like a lot of people when they do these kind of case studies, they forget the cost of tools, etc. But this creeps up quite a bit, especially if 3 months.
Yeah, even if you're trying to find statistics and stuff, you could spend $500 doing like a survey or something to get information.
Designers,
or
as well.
just like hire good writers to like put this together who have experience in running these types of campaigns.
Yeah, so like you can do that. You have some budget for that if you do that. So that's we've basically treated basic content to increase topical authority, and basically aiming to get ads level traffic, so we can actually put ads on the site, and we can hopefully do something like double the revenue. We've talked about links, so hopefully the content that we have on the site gets more traffic, and eventually we just start bridging the gap with the higher authority sites. Now it's time to actually make the site a better site as well, which is not only with like the info content is just kind of like accessory to bring the traffic, but I think for a site in this niche, I would actually go after a model that I first talked about in this podcast a few episodes ago, a while actually ago, on a site called the Hoopskick. And I really like that site. They review basketball shoes, but they do it in a different way, where they basically built a database of all the shoes they can find. And then they made really, really, really advanced kind of like single product pages that replace their single reviews, right? So they have a lot of ratings. They put like the expert rating, which is based on them watching and putting essentially grades based on the reviews of experts that review these shoes on YouTube. So for example, they have traction, cushion, materials, support, fit, and outdoors. And then based on what people say on the YouTube video, they will attribute a score from that expert. What it does, it populates their product pages. Even though nobody might be reviewing the shoes on their site, when someone opens that page, there's like 4 or 5 expert reviews based on content they found online. And so it fits that in quite nicely. They also have all the different buying options. So in their case, they have Foot Locker, Champ Sports, stocks, etc. You can compare shoes. There's lots of stuff, basically like kind of like an e-commerce, but as a review site that then lets you pick the platform where you buy and do your final click and check out. And so I think for the bike market, it really can work. And so I would kind of like start opening one big project like that of starting to build a database of products, starting to consume all the content related to these products and build that into a super page with all these ratings. So, like how beginner friendly it is it better for off-road or on-road? How sturdy is it? The stability maybe, like, you can find all these criteria that you will rate all bikes against. And essentially then use the content you find online to fill that up and attribute votes for that and build this database. And I would build that on WooCommerce probably. Like I think that's what the Hoopskick does. I can't tell for sure because I can't really see their backend. But I actually found a site that goes after that approach. It's a DR53 site. It's called bikeride.com. And that site is a DR53 site, so it's very reachable for our site. And it gets 402,000 search traffic according to Ahrefs, following like kind of like a worse version of what the Hoopskick does, and that's good because it tells me that it can be done better. They didn't do so well on. They put the reviews on YouTube from many people, like you can see the videos, but you can't. They didn't really like translate that into grades and for the different criterias, and that's I think where it's missing. So overall, it's okay, but it can be done better. And yeah, they only reviewed 400 or 500 bike SKUs basically, and they're getting 400K traffic, which with ads is a fair amount of money. Plus, these are monetized pages, so the ads will pay more money, and they will actually make affiliate sales on top. So it's really, really powerful. And eventually, it can power your roundup reviews. It wouldn't be for that round; it would be later, But like, let's say you have best bikes for off-road, for example. Then based on the off-road score, you could actually have your roundup previews be dynamically populated with the right bikes, etc. And you can make some cool stuff there. So that would be essentially the direction I would take to kind of like level up that site, go past like the basic Amazon site with some random info content there, and establish myself as a real player in the market and give it a differentiating point, because I've seen only one site that does it right now. And for this market, it's very, very possible to do that. And the commissions are pretty high on bikes, so it's really good, basically. So that's what I would do. I would probably hire a developer to help me with that. Like I could probably build something fair myself, but it's probably would be several weeks of work. So I'd probably hire someone to help me out. Base this off WooCommerce and just have a lot of custom fields in WordPress, a custom post type. And then for each bike, you would have a post, and then you just fill, the different scores, the different YouTube videos, the different everything. I would just put the page together based on something like the Hoopsgeek pages, sorry. And then you can start without the comparison tool to start with, for example, but then you can add that later, etc. So you could essentially have multiple rounds, but I would aim to have a basic version of that in 30 days, including an option for people to drop reviews for this, so that I could eventually start building some UGC on my site as well and make these pages even more useful. So that's pretty much like the last project. It's kind of like harder to attribute like direct revenue to this, but that's, going for like that useful site angle that Google wants from affiliate sites. Like they want them to add value. And I think that is one great way to eventually add value and eventually make that site better. And also when you look at how much traffic the sites that do that get against their DR, I think it's really powerful together with the SEO content that's coming in and the links that are ticking in from the previous tactics. So that would essentially be the third one. Anything you want to say on this approach? Like, do you like it? Do you hate it?
I like it in general. I mean, how long do you think it would take to implement that?
I mean, again, as I said, you don't have to have the full finished version exactly like the Hoopsgeek. I said, for example, I would probably drop off the comparison widget. Like they have this comparison widget where you can pick stuff. I don't need this in V1. I can add that later. But what I can do is I can do the YouTube video translated into rating stuff that I can do. With like the criteria. So like, you'd open the bike and you'd say like, sturdiness, stability, off-road score, like on-road score, like stuff like that. I'd pick like 6 or 7 criteria like that I would have. I would have an overall bike score, like a review score, basically, out of 100 that like this bike ride has. And I would probably have pros and cons. Probably that's an easy one to add based on the reviews, and the different links to buy it, for example, and like different information like the size, the weight, the frame material, things like that would probably be in there. So it's just a bunch of custom fields. It's not that much work, actually. It's like
I think that the challenge is maybe not like technically doing it.
It's filling it after.
It is how do you standardize that review scoring? So like what is like stability 1 to 10? Like what is an 8 and what is a 6 and what is a 4? You know what I mean? Like
but that's something that you put eventually you just have someone watching YouTube videos all day and filling that up basically for a while. Like you hire an intern, you find someone like that doing that. I would put the tech together, and eventually like what I would do, the best way to be consistent is to have that one person filling that. I don't think you need more people. Like you just add slowly your SKUs. It doesn't need to be like 10 people working for 2 weeks, then you have nothing to do, It's more like I would get that one intern or something, do that, and then I discuss with them. Like I'd make them do this for 4 hours, and we have a discussion, be like, okay, like what made you score this, what made you score this, that. And then eventually like editorial reviews, they are biased, right? It's like, and you're basing your scoring based on a biased review as well. So it's like what you're trying to do is just reflect all the information you can find on the web in an easy, consumable way on there. And so like maybe that guy was like, oh, it's very stable. And then very stable is maybe like a 4 out of 5 or something. It's like the most stable bike I've ever used. Okay, that's a 5 out of 5. Or like, it's stable enough. Maybe that's a 3 out of 5. So probably we'd associate vocabulary that we'd find in content with a score, and then they can just find the vocabulary that's the closest to that index that we built, and they can attribute a score. Maybe something like that would work, like inside a company wiki or something like that. And it's not perfect, but that's pretty much the closest thing you can do to reflecting what people expressed,
And I think that's the important thing. Like it doesn't have to be perfect on day one. You can tweak it and iterate it over time, but just doing it. I mean, there's one site doing something kind of
doing
like
well,
this.
yeah.
So you can if you implement half of this, it's still going to stand you ahead of most other competitors.
Yeah, so it's like, and the thing is like, it just plays into this like building a useful site that adds value, that also reflects like real usage, because you essentially take the real usage of people who have reviewed this and implement this into your content. So it's kind of like an indirect way to reflect that, and you're playing into what Google wants, and hopefully as you keep doing that, that protects you from big traffic swings and all of that, etc. So it's like, we're doing our classic SEO, but then we're adding value on top. We're not just trying to play the algorithm on the cheapest way possible. We're trying to make this actually a great site eventually. And that's the first step to that. Like, that's not everything. We're just 90 days in. Eventually, you make these pages better. You integrate that into your roundup reviews. You have comparison tools that allows you to pick exactly the best bike, and you can see the multiple pros and cons for each bike based on your comparison, etc. A bit like when you go on an e-commerce, they like compare this with this other one, and then they put a table with the features and so on. So that kind of stuff can be done. It's not crazy difficult to do, because e-commerce has that, and there's lots of plugins on WooCommerce that allow you to do that. So if you start building this on WooCommerce, you can repurpose these things, because essentially you have a product SKU, you run it like a shop, except that instead of adding to cart, you click on the affiliate link, and so like a lot of this stuff is pre-built, and you can just refeature it for affiliate comparisons, etc. And I think that is what Google means by adding value, and how you kind of like take that site from a random affiliate site to a site that's hard to copy and that adds value for someone that's actually looking to buy a bike. So that's pretty much our 3-phase plan. Step 1, get the traffic up, add increase relevance and topical authority with a bunch of content, and aim for 50k traffic for Mediavine or 30k for AdStrive if you already have a site there. 2, build some links, high quality links, so that you can actually start bridging the gap with the bigger sites, and all your content does better. And 3, make the site better by actually making your reviews better, summarizing information about the product. And it's kind of like also a solution to make the site better without necessarily have the products in hand yet, like you can add that later. But you can start going that path without spending tens of thousands of dollars on bicycles that you don't know what to do with after. So yeah, maybe start a bike shop locally after, and just buy all the bikes, and have this kind of like two-way process. But you can start without that, and eventually you could work your way there if your site is successful, basically. So that's pretty much it for this site. Any final words of wisdom for someone for the owner of the site?
I just think that this shows that there's a lot of opportunity
on Flipper as well. Yeah,
buying. Yes, on Flipper, but on buying sites that are in that kind of $1,000, $1,500 a month revenue range. You can buy it for not too expensive, but it can allow you quite quickly to do a lot of very interesting stuff. And certainly within sort of 6-12 months, I think if we followed that path, we'd see a lot of traction there. And I think that it presents a good opportunity either to flip it in a year's time, or just to really like push that and grow that into one of to be a larger cycling site. I think it's got a really good base in terms of tech stack, and that's normally if you buy a site that's like not really built the right way, you spend the first 3 months fixing all those things that are broken and redoing the site, redoing the tech stack. But by picking one that was built correctly, we've been able to bypass all that.
Yeah, I think that was the value of this site. Like the price for like what you get was really good. The problem with this approach is like we'd get on 3 months exactly after buying, and I'm not even sure we'd even be at the level of traffic that we need for ads, for example. Like it takes some time to tick in. Like it might take like 6 months to get there or something. Hard to tell. It could be really quick. Sometimes they pick up really quick. Sometimes they take their sweet time. So it's kind of like you're doing this for 3 months, but then you're probably waiting a total of like 6 to 9 months to really start seeing the benefits of what you're doing. So it would be a bit of a delayed fuse on this one, especially for the last step. I think there would be a bit of a delayed fuse for like Google to start transitioning you to these higher quality sites. With this helpful content update, I think people are like tiering your sites, but they say it's really like a long process and it takes a long time for you to see that. So it's like, I think it would take a while, but yeah, I think it's also for 50K, that's realistic to do all of this. At least
Very realistic,
50K will cover you probably the first like 4 to 6 months. And then after that, you can start building 5 months, maybe 5-6 months total, like buying the site plus doing all of this, like getting all that content.
Plus,
etc.
you know, the site's making revenue in that time,
Yeah.
so you can kind of offset some of it against that. You're spending the money over time, and if you want to do like more of the work yourselves in terms of writing, certainly, like it brings
Tech,
a
I
lot
think
of that
tech would
cost
save
down
you
a
money.
lot.
Like building
Yeah.
the tech for the single product pages, if you do it yourself, you're probably saving yourself lots of money compared to hiring a dev. I think that's the best value. If I was doing work myself, I would outsource the content and link building, but I would do the tech because the devs would take quite a bit of money to build something custom like this. So that would be my guess. But yeah, that's pretty much it. Hope you guys enjoyed this format. Let us know in the comments if you liked it. Drop us a like as well. And we'll see you again in 2 weeks for another podcast episode. See you later.
Which is episode 300, by the way,
Ooh,
in 2 weeks.
Are we doing
time.
anything special?
Well, as is tradition, we do nothing special for our big episodes. So.
Yeah, I wanted to dress as Spartan Warriors, but Mark didn't want to, so whatever. All right, see you in 2 weeks for episode 300. Have a good week.